I'm Jeff Cornwall, and this is the Entrepreneurial Mind. Today my guest is Floyd DePalma with DePalma Studios. We'll be back to talk with him after this.
Talkopolis programming is sponsored in part by the Vane Center, now celebrating 10 years service in Nashville, Tennessee.
Welcome, Floyd.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being here. So, tell us a little bit about what you guys do at DePalma Studios. You're a tech company. You're a development firm, basically.
We're a software company, but we're very focused and very niche in what we do. In that all we do is the front end user interfaces that the humans interact with. We create.
Slow down a minute. You're getting techie already on me. All right. So give me an example of what that means. What do you do?
When I say user interfaces, applications are consisted of software in the back that works with data, and then there's the front end that are the devices you hold in your hand, from tablets to mobile devices to your desktop.
Okay.
So there's the interface, which is the part that we implement and make great experiences for the end user.
So it makes it easy and intuitive for me to touch it and move things the right way. And,
yeah, whatever.
And you don't worry about the databases in the back end.
We don't worry about the data. That's pretty much the business. They know their data and they know the value of it, and we know how people consume information, so we make great experiences on the types of devices they need to use to access that information.
So you're actually working with the development people inside of companies who already have that back end,
yeah,
and you're helping them connect with their customers better? Is that kind of what you do?
We always work with existing IT departments, and I kind of say that we're like the supercharger to that IT department. We're not coming in. Our model is not to come in and get bodies in an organization and start being part of that organization. We're here to help organizations raise their competency in user interface design and development. Okay. So that's pretty much our value add.
All right, so how does somebody get into this kind of a niche? Because that's a very specific business niche.
Well, it's really become...
You didn't graduate from college saying, you know what I want to do? I want to have a user interface business someday.
Well, the thing is I was a software developer since I started in the Army in 1985.
Okay.
Became a computer programmer. And every application requires some type of interface on your computer so that you can interact with the data. So so I've been doing this for 25 years, and I feel
this has been the space you've been in for forever and ever.
Forever. Yeah.
Wow.
So I feel like what I'm doing now is solving the problems I've been creating for 25 years.
So how'd the transition go from doing that as an employee to doing that as a business owner, as an entrepreneur?
Well, it took a couple turns even before DePalma Studios. I was working, my whole career has been for massive Fortune 500 companies. After graduating from Michigan, working for Ford Motor Company, and then consulting for Ford Motor Company, and then we're General Motors and EDS and all that up north. Then moving down here, working for HCA, and that was the last big corporation I worked for here in Nashville. Then I decided to try something different, and I finally left big corporate America and went to a small 10-person marketing company.
That had to be a shock.
It was a very big, change.
What were the biggest differences that you found going? Because you had spent your life in corporate America, and now you're in a company that's the entire employee base is smaller than most departments.
I could see everybody just by turning my head. It was a room about this size,
right.
and it was the biggest shock or thing that was really different was to see how sales actually impacted the business. I mean, we'd make a little $10,000 website sale, we'd ring the bell, and everybody would be like really happy that you could actually see how revenue drove the business.
And you're going, what goes on? And they're saying, this means we get paid next month.
Yeah. Well, but at that point I was still an employee of the business, so I still didn't have the whole insight of the entrepreneur. I was watching for the first time entrepreneurs versus managers of IT departments.
Gotcha.
So, I did that for a year, and I really it was I really loved what I was doing, and I felt I could do it myself. So that I went out on my own and started a marketing company in my living room of my house.
And so you were sole proprietor for a while, and what led you to want to start hiring employees?
Well, it's
because a lot of people are happy just doing that, doing websites or whatever.
Well,
and don't want the headache of employees.
Yeah, well, it's a team sport. I mean, it takes more than one person to do it, to do marketing and do it well. In fact, online marketing there's an enormous amount of services an online marketing company actually provides. And we started with focusing on websites, but the next thing you know, you're doing pay-per-click, you're doing email marketing, you're doing print, you're doing all these things. So now you need designers, you need programmers, you need salespeople. So all these things, it's not like I knew that when I quit and started it on my own. You just decide that, I had this desire that I wanted to work for myself, and I didn't really understand what that meant at the time. So I figured I'd go out and figure it out.
So did you grow pretty quickly in your employment in the business?
Well, it was my goal when I started in my living room to have an office in downtown within 6 months.
Okay.
So within 6 months, I rented my beautiful home in Cool Springs and moved out of that and got a live workspace at the Stallman Building at 3rd and Union,
right.
And I've been there ever since.
Interesting. And so how many employees did you add the first year when you started
I probably had like 4 or 5 the first year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you find that you kind of thought you knew what you needed and didn't always kind of have that right as you were growing? And that's one of the challenges I found, was that I thought I had a structure and a design and the team in my head, and then you kind of get it in place and go, nah, that's not really exactly what I need.
Well, yeah, definitely. Probably more so later on, really trying to figuring out the right mix of people. At first, I was trying to figure out what services I wanted to provide and what I really wanted to do.
Gotcha.
I think early on in your career, you're just saying yes to everything, trying to find that thing that you can, be the best at. And, as a marketing company, the thing that frustrated me was, we were doing so many things, from analytics to, email marketing and pay-per-click and all these great website development and stuff. But whenever there was a really great client that I wanted to get, I'd go up against a name brand marketing company here in town, and I could never beat them because I was this small little unknown company.
Right.
So I ended up with a lot of real small businesses as my clients. And they were good businesses, but they weren't the big business that I wanted.
And that's not your sweet spot in terms of your skill set. I mean, they don't have IT departments that you're putting this nice user interface in front of.
Well, being an online marketing company, the enterprise is really not your target. It's probably more small and medium-sized businesses. But what happened in 2011, there's a Fortune 50 accounting firm here locally that a friend of mine was an architect at, and we were back in 2011, we were very proficient in building responsive websites that could adapt if you were on your desktop, or if you had a smartphone, the website would render on your smartphone. And that story got told over in this accounting firm, and they wanted me to bring that technology into their enterprise and apply that to applications, so that applications could then be responsive for desktop or to work on a mobile phone.
Gotcha.
So then I was back home. I was providing services for an enterprise again, but now instead of being an employee, I was actually in a vendor situation.
And that was kind of the client that really got you to where you guys are today and what you do.
That is the client that caused me to really see that a new need, a niche possibility, and I had another friend of mine that was in his 70s. He's retired, a successful businessman, and when I got back into this company, and I was in my in the zone doing what I really felt comfortable doing, working for big ITs, big Fortune 500s. he said, Floyd, he's like, you know, this could be your niche. He's like, have you ever heard of the fox and the fox and the hedgehog? And he goes, you're a fox right now, and you've got so many services that, and with that, you're in this competitive environment of everybody doing the same thing, and there's no differentiator between one versus the other except for price.
Right.
He's like, and with the resources you have, being a bootstrap startup, he goes, the way to compete is to pick one thing.
Right.
So
Get known for this.
So that's what I did.
So that people say, if you need this, call Floyd.
So that's what I did. So in 2012, I took his advice and I shut down my marketing company, and I closed down NetFX Services, opened up as DePalma Studios as a focused UI UX company that only does user interface design and development. And we were targeting the enterprise because that's the experience I had was bringing in advanced visual engineering capabilities into environments where, and that's another thing too, and why this niche is so needed by big corporations, is this thing that we do is a highly creative service.
Right.
And those types of people tend to want to work in small companies or they're freelance types.
Right.
So those skill sets are a little bit sparse in the enterprise, but they're extremely competent with their business and their data and an understanding of their customers. So what they need is a company like us to come in to help unlock the value of some of the applications that they have, so that you can get the most out of the data and the information and make it accessible on all these modern devices. See, the thing that's happened is this data and this information, it's still good. And the back end parts of the computer system are still good. You just need to, it's like renovating a house. You just rip the front end off and use the same services to access the information.
But bring it out so it can be in a tablet or a
then
smartphone.
and then you customize it for modern devices
So
using the
you're
exact
rooting for more and more modern devices so
Well,
you stay relevant.
Well, we actually are. In fact, I was up at my last employer up in Detroit, Covista, and I was doing a job for them in Cisco, and listening to all this stuff. They're even doing Google Glass stuff,
Right.
and that's a device I haven't worked with yet, but it's just another device. And now the Apple Watch is coming out in the spring, and I just look at these as other viewport sizes. It's the same information that needs to be usable, but they're used in different ways when you're using it on your wrist, or if you're using it in your glass, or if you're on your tablet, iPhone, or your desktop. So the complexity of the user interactions with the information is exponential compared to what they used to be 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, thanks for coming in. Great story. Love hearing about it, and I've read about you with the Next Awards and some of that, and it's good to hear it firsthand. So
Well,
thank
thanks
you very
for
much.
having me.
You bet.